with us here. Greetings to you, Brother Bobby.
Yes, greetings. I'm telling you. And
it took a minute, but we got you here.
Right. So we opened with Thriller, and then I suggested the Mooch, because whenever we play that song, Baron Samdi and those comes out, and so we call it the Baron song,
Right.
And what happened was this was taken from the Cotton Club soundtrack. Cotton Club came out in 1984 with Richard Gere, and Richard Gere and I can't think of the other person, the black person. I know Larry Fishburne was one of his early appearances, and the other guy, the tap dancer guy that died, I can't think his name right. Gregory Hines.
Gregory Hines.
Yeah, and Lonette McKee was in it too. And so, in so many words, it's very special because the simple fact was, I can't think of the guy who orchestrated that one, but what he did was, this was 10 years after Duke Ellington made the transition. He made the transition in 1974. 10 years later, 1984, this movie comes out, and by this time, they had the digitally remastered type stuff, so when the orchestra played it and stuff, it just brought it to a whole nother level. But whenever we play it, the Barons, we call it the Baron Samdi song. It's called the Mooch. It's called the Mooch. So very key on this eve of Hallows Eve. And so we want to bring that energy in. And so we got a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Well, tonight, like you said, we're going to be talking about all of those things. Brother Bobby Hemmitt is joining us here. I did give the introduction, but for those of you who are listening right now, I'll go ahead and let you know. Again, tonight we're going to be we have about 3 hours. We'll do some Q&A a little later in the show, but first we're going to get into all of this energy, talk about Michael Jackson and some of the things that are going on that's significant here that Brother Bobby Hemmitt's going to speak on, as well as just the relevance of this particular energy that we're in and the ancestors and their destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Ready whenever you are, Brother Bobby.
Okay. Well, first of all, I want to recap on some things that's happened to me in the last couple of months. I started Ramadan in June. Now, Ramadan is in June, and when I did it, it wasn't that I was purposely doing it. It's just that I couldn't eat anything until after sundown. And so that was June, July, and then August came, which was Ramadan. And I kept on, so but in August, but what happened was I started getting all this mucus, and I couldn't get rid of it, and it was all the way in August. So what had happened was I had entered into a angelic realm. See, everybody's on their own initiation. Everybody out here is doing a part of their own initiation, whether you know it or not. There's a reason why you turn conscious and other people aren't, and that's because you are the ones that's initiating to become with the gods and become those gods or those angelic forces. We're going to get into that. So now, in my case, I entered into this angelic God realm. Some call them gods, some call them angels, the Netaru or what have you. I entered into this realm, and as a result, there was no meat on this realm. So that means that I had to go back to being a vegetarian, which I was in the 90s, and and then I happily got off it and had a good 12 good years, you see, in gluttony. Right. And, I worshiped the lobster and all of that good old stuff. And so what happened was I had to get off the meat. This was in August. And then I had to go on a 3-week fast, juice fast for 3 weeks. And lost about 50 pounds. And I was going to take the fast all the way to my birthday, which is November the 28th, because I'm going to be turning 50. And that's called the 50 Gates of Understanding on Kabbalah. Yeah. And all, the 50 Gates of Understanding. And also, the 50 years is also connected to the Star Sirius. So a whole lot of stuff on the Sacred 50. So what happened was, I was going to take it to my birthday, because the thing about a fast here is, you cannot eat, but you can't not drink. So you can go without food, you just can't go without liquids.
Right.
And stuff like that. So the fast, I was going to do the fast, Dr. Faber would have him go on a 40-day fast. Well, the fast was, I was going to try to stretch it all over my birthday, but I started losing all my ass. My ass started caving in on me and shit, so I had to start back eating, because shit, I lost all my damn ass and stuff and all. So, so as a result, I had to break the fast, but still, I'm still a vegan. You see what I'm saying? Right. I'm still a vegan and stuff. And so what happened was, so the cough went away, the mucus went away. And what it is those particular dimensions, you don't supposed to be eating anything when you get on that dimension. Now, I'm not trying to tell anybody to follow this path. I'm talking about what's unique to me. Because I'm in there with these particular angelic hosts. So after a while, you don't supposed to be eating anything. So as a result of the colon getting any type of food, the mucus will come, because it's going against the grain of that realm. So in so many words, the funny part about it, I knew I was in a realm because my appetite went in May. My appetite went in May, and I had a low appetite all year long. So what it was is, I knew I was going to this particular realm, and all, So, but as a result, man, shoot. Once I went on that fast, it was almost like, I thought that I felt the same as 19 all my life, because I never really had any pain. But I didn't know until after I went on the fast and got off the meat that, man, I really feel like I'm 19 now and stuff like that. So that's one of the realms that that I've been going through and all, because like I said, and basically what they wanted to do, they said, well, you've been lucky. You never had any aches and pains all your life, but now you're going towards 50, and so as a result, you see, you've been pretty lucky. So as a result, you're going into that particular realm, and you've been successful with it. So as a result, I had to because there is no meat or nothing with a face in that realm as far as animals or any type of stuff like that. And so as a result, I had to do that. So that's what I've been going through. That's what I've been going through. So it's a couple of things we want to make mention before we get into this thing. We want to make mention of some stuff. First of all, I want to say some things here that we need to get to the bottom of, as far as why we've been catching all this hell all these years for the past 300 and something years. And that is, when it comes to racism, we used to know that the Europeans used to worship us. You see, they used to worship us and all, you see. So what happened was, what we have been going through as far as the racism is a design for a society done by secret societies. So in so many words, and I learned about this when I was in Dr. Ben's mystery system. I was in Dr. Ben's mystery system, and so what we had to do is we still had to go through the same degrees as the regular Prince Hall Black Masons. And then, but also while we was doing that, we was putting back all of the Neteru and the Egyptian concepts And so it was basically a workshop where we all brought something to the table. Now, one thing happened when we first crossed over, and this mystery system used to talk about this. They say when the European mystery system, because the Europeans, what they would do when they would cross over, the initiates would cross over and get their first degrees. What they would do that night is they would bring a black man into the lodge, blindfolded. And I don't know if they get him off the street or whatever they do. They would just bring a black man in the lodge, blindfolded, and they would say, "This is your father. Always hold him down. Always keep him down." So this is a mandate of the Masonic orders, the European Masonic orders. And for some reason, and I think it had something to do with, because all this stuff was designed by the Moors as far as bringing them into the Masonic aspect. Because we know that the Moors also started the Knights Templar and different things like that. So as a result, for some reason, they declared us the enemy. Now, the regular European or the regular person, especially in this country, that is not a part of a Masonic order, what has been happening to them is they have been given racist concepts about us and being made to think that they're their own. So when you had the whole the racist South, you had all these major events. There was always some people behind the scenes that was pulling the strings. So in so many words, we know even the Ku Klux Klan was founded by, what's the guy's name? The Anti-Defamation League, as well as Albert Pike. And the Albert Pike used to be a Confederate general, you see, a Confederate general. And so so there's always been this secret society. And what they would do here is that they would give the general white people in the society these racist views, which they wouldn't actually have if it wasn't for somebody pulling the strings. And I take, for instance, that's why when people would go up north and say, man, it's just as racist up north.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So it means that there's always been some aspect that to keep us down by certain secret societies. And so they decreed us the enemy. So as a result, because why is that? Because they know ultimately that we're the original people, and the gods one day will rise. And for some reason, we were deemed the enemy. You see, so even when you get Thomas Jefferson's notes on Virginia, and he decreed either we are going to have to send the Africans back to Africa, which they did part of that with the Liberia group, or we're going to have to exterminate them. And this was a white guy who so-called liked black people because he had that mistress, what's her name, Sally Hemmitt or something, all those years. But the point about it is who was he talking to when he was saying these notes on Virginia? Was he talking to the general public, or he was talking to the Masonic Brethren? And that's what the Masonic Brethren. So it has always been, so any of this racism, we just got to just put this aside because there's a certain amount of information that needs to be uncovered on how we find how things to be, why things are. You see, so into this particular stuff, it was a Masonic group and several Masonic groups that was behind this to keep this thing going. So even today, when we think of we think ourselves free and we think of all this, they're still designing institutional racism. You see what I'm saying? Or even the design to pit us against each other by Masonic orders. You see, by Masonic orders. So
true.
So this has never been reviewed. We just think that white people are generally racist in the society. No, this is a society that was designed for a certain purpose, to keep us down by not even a Mason, but a secret society, the unseen hand. So we've been hearing all this stuff about the secret societies and the Illuminati and all these things for the last 20 years. They've been going into this stuff. But the one thing that they don't ever tell us is the other part about that. The basis of this is always hold the black man down. And so we have reports of black men being abducted once a year, couple of times a year, whatever, or whenever they have these large ceremonies. And they would actually hear, they would blindfold them, but they would actually hear them saying, "This is your father, always hold him down." And we learned this in the Dr. Ben's mystery system, when it was still going. You know, it defunct in 1994. I got in 1991. So I just wanted to clear that up because it goes to show. It goes to show how this stuff is still designed. So even when there are certain things that's designed to this day. You see what I'm saying? Now, it might not be the overt racism. You see what I'm saying? But it's almost like one of the decrees is to see us as the enemy. You see us as the enemy. You see what I'm saying? Like that now. And exploit us because we don't know the different information. So I just want to put that here because the thing about it is when we go into the Michael Jackson thing, we can find out what actually happened to him and what this thing is all about. So and it's interesting here because and it's certain things that they know about us. Like take for instance, and what we're going to get into is based on this destiny of where is our destiny. It's one thing to go into just tons and tons of information, which I've been doing for the last 19 years, because it'll be 20 years on June the 27th. We were 20th anniversary when I first started speaking. So I've been lecturing for 19 years, 19 and a half years. So, so as a result, there's certain things that we have to lay down just to tie up some stuff, just like this whole Troy Davis thing. Now, Troy Davis was the guy that they executed. But it's ironic that they executed him and they executed the same white boy that drove the guy down the street in Texas.
In Texas, yes.
Whatever this guy, they executed him on the same day. So this is some kind of ritual that was going on. And they also executed Troy Davis on the the fall equinox. Yeah. You see, on the fall equinox. You see. So it's just interesting how these things go. But what we did do is the Spirit told us to just get up and start playing some music and to usher him in to this other realm, which when we replied back and when we tried to get back, he was like, man, this is great. If I'd have known this, I would have done this years ago. So in so many words, they helped Troy Davis because what are you going to do? Spend the rest of his life in a prison? You see what I'm saying? So he's free, and that's the problem. Is we are scared of death, and because of this society, you know, the ancient Egyptians used to teach on death from the time you was born. So everybody would look forward to those days when we make the transition. You see, and so the Western man, you see what I'm saying? A lot of this science broke down, and he had these fears on death, which ancient cultures didn't. Ancient cultures didn't. So now it's interesting here because Jeb Bush all of a sudden came out and told the people, the people that's running for president, for the Republican primary, told them to just stick to the issues and quit attacking Obama. Stick to the issues and quit attacking Obama. Now, one of the reasons why was this. Number one, he made this decision after the Washington Monument, when they had the earthquake, and the Washington Monument cracked and got damaged. So they automatically thought that maybe this was some kind of thing where they were upsetting black people. You see, upset black people. Or it can be also he made that decision because they talking about his family member. Because remember, everybody that sits in that chair has to be related to the Queen of England.
That's right.
And stuff. So it might be some stuff like that. It could be the family member stuff. But it's just interesting here. But why did he say this right after the earthquake?
Right.
You see, right after the earthquake and stuff. And then the Washington Monument was cracked. And it's interesting here because there was a show on called The Event that they took off. And in the event, the so-called aliens tore down the Washington Monument in May of this year, before the show went off, and then all of a sudden, it happened in reality. Mm-hmm. You see, now if you know anything about rituals, you can make certain things happen physically with a certain idea and a certain intent and a certain aim. So it could be a combination of things that was actually going on. But the thing about it is what I said here about the Troy Davis thing is he is doing well in the hereafter, and that's a good part. That's a very good part. Now another thing I want to talk about here to give the warning, and this is the warning because we have to give this warning because I've been talking about this about a year, but I'm going to break this thing down. I want to give the warning to the people that CNN came on TV sometime this summer and said that they were going after, the NYPD was going after the Moroccans. Now, Moroccans, wait a minute, that's like saying, okay, the LAPD is going after the Mexicans. The Morocco, the ones that the Moroccans that they talk about that live in New York is a race of Arabs. But they were not talking about that. See, they're talking in code. What they were really saying was we're going after the Moors, the Moorish Science Temple, or the Moors, the black Moors in America. You see, now why did they say the Moroccans? Why did they say the Moroccans? Because the Moors, over the couple of years, a lot of Moors signed up with the Moroccan Treaty.
Yeah.
With the Moroccan Treaty. So that's that whole nationality thing they was on. And so when they say the Moroccans, they can add the Moors in this country because a lot of them have signed up with the Moroccan Treaty. You see what I'm saying? So now this is the key to this whole thing, because I talked about this before. There was a white group that the United States government put together called Revolution Muslim. And they would stand up in Times Square, just like the Hebrew Israelites used to do, and they would speak about all kinds of they would speak about all kinds of jihad and talk about all this type stuff and all this terrorist stuff. So as a result, the government finally got after them, you see. And one of the guys fled to where? Morocco. Fled to Morocco. Now, it's interesting here because the guy that was from America that was the head of so-called the number one in place of Al-Qaeda, they just got killed about a month ago. And stuff like that. That whole thing is tied in. But the key here is it's tied in with the Moors. Now, remember this. After 9/11, which was September 11th, 2001, around Thanksgiving of the same year, the Atlanta Journal and Constitution ran an entire article on the historical Moors. On the historical Moors. That is to get people make this information privy to people who didn't know who the historical Moors was. But it's ironic that it ran right after 9/11. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So this is to acclimate people into this type of into this type of thing that they want to do. As far as next up on the line is these Moors, this sting operation. It's not by mistake that most of the terrorists that they caught in this so-called country, the shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, were black people. You see. So what I'm trying to tell people here is to warn is all that nationality stuff. You see what I'm saying? That's nothing but something that is set up by the government, by the United States government, to take down the Moors. Now, we've been a part of this nationality thing as far as it was introduced to us back in 1993 by the Empress Vertice. And so in Atlanta, we were some of the first people to be made privy to this particular thing as far as all this white-way law and all this type of stuff, and UCC and all of this type of thing. So what happened was one of the guys, and it's interesting here, one of the guys went to one of the meetings down in Alabama. And when he's in Alabama, Mississippi. And when he got to the meetings, he was in the meeting with a bunch of Klansmen and a bunch of militia. Remember, they had a white militia that was real big in the 90s? But after Timothy McVeigh blew up the building in Oklahoma, a lot of them went underground and a lot of them left. But at that particular time, before the building got blew up in Oklahoma, a lot of the Moors had gone down to Mississippi in these meetings when they was trying to tell the people on how to, with this nationality thing. You see, and all this type of stuff and all. So my point here was is this whole thing was a government design to get you to sign up and to get you to sign up and to get you to take us down. So remember this type of thing. If we talk about some Masonic things here, remember now that's their thing is also they say always hold us down. So this is always a part of something. So in that, let me get into what we're talking about this Michael Jackson thing. Okay. The Michael Jackson, they got this trial going on now with this guy. You see what I'm saying? Now, the key here is whatever the deal here is, it went down. The key is Michael Jackson was killed from propofol or whatever this thing here is, and he's taking Demerol and all this type of thing. But the main thing is Michael Jackson was not able to sleep.
Right.
Okay? Michael Jackson was not able to sleep. Now, this could also be a secret society thing or what have you that was in cahoots with the doctors when Michael Jackson decided that he wanted to strip all of his melanin off and bleach his skin. Now, anybody knows anything about melanin, that if you get chemical peels or if you get any kind of damage, if you have melanin, two things happen. If you get a cut, it's going to kilo it. Now, remember, Michael Jackson and him was from a real dark-skinned family. Okay? And so you get a cut or a scrape, it'll kilo it. That's one thing of melanin. Other thing about melanin is this. If you get a scrape and the skin becomes white, whenever it heals, you'll get a darker scar than you had before. It gets darker. Okay? Right. So the key here is working with these mad scientists and Michael Jackson. They just took advantage of him in his black inferiority. You see, black self-hatred. So what happened was when he decided to do this with the chemical peel, how was he able to stay white? Because anybody know that when black people used to bleach their skin with all that Oxy and then they had the Ambi, you got to keep bleaching yourself because once that melanin kicks in, you can become blacker than what you were before you started bleaching. So the way melanin works, it doubles up. So the point I'm trying to make here is when Michael Jackson decided that he wanted the chemical peel, in order to keep his skin white, they had to tamper with the melanin genetically. And in some kind of way, they used Michael Jackson. First of all, they said, we doctors are going to make the first black man white, you see. And they used Michael Jackson to do it, and Michael Jackson stayed white until the day he died. Now, the key here was, in order to do this with the chemical peel, if Michael Jackson would have just gotten a chemical peel and they didn't genetically alter his melanin with experiments. Remember now, they've been working with melanin since the 1950s. You see, since the 1950s. They actually learned a lot about the melanin in World War II. You see what I'm saying, with the Nazis and all. Because remember now, a lot of the scientists and stuff that was able to escape was bailed out by American secret societies and stuff like that. So they've been dealing with the melanin since the 1940s, 1950s. They've learned how to isolate it and do all this type of stuff on into the 60s. You see what I'm saying? So the point I'm trying to make here is, by the time Michael Jackson came around, they had almost 50 years of being scientists and experimenting with melanin. So what happened was, in order to keep Michael Jackson white, they had to wipe out some stuff on a genetic level or on some type of experimental level. They had to tamper with his melanin. Now, as a result, otherwise Michael Jackson would have became back blacker than what he was. Right. You see, now, as a result of that, this is what happened. What is melanin? Melanin is also a form of sleep. That's why they introduced melatonin tablets as an alternative sleep aid to the Europeans in the 90s. And they had this whole melanin craze. And they found out that melanin is a nighttime hormone. They call it the Dracula particle. It's a nighttime hormone. So what happened was, when you go in the dark, melanin starts to manifest, you see, secrete. And so as a result, melanin is secreted it's also through the central nervous system, but it's also secreted through the pineal gland. So whatever they had to do, it might have been some pineal experiments or all types of stuff like that. But what form of melanin is the miracle cure of everything in the universe. But one thing that melanin is, it is sleep. Which, by them tampering with Michael Jackson and whatever experiments, I don't know, they tampered with his sleep. Yeah. You see, in order for him to stay white. You see, even to the point where, one thing about sleep, if you just get in the dark long enough, you will fall asleep. And so as a result of the late 90s and the early 2000s, they were trying to tell people in the major cities, they told people that they need to cut off the lights on the skyscrapers downtown, people who lived in major cities, because people was having a problem sleeping because it was too lit up. You see, especially the people that stayed close to the downtown areas and you know. So because people was having problems sleeping. You see, so as a result, Michael Jackson, they messed with his sleep by tampering with the melanin. And so as a result, number one, they said his entire central nervous system was completely destroyed. You see, it stopped producing hair. Michael Jackson only had 2 braids, and he was bald-headed, and they would weave a wig in. They put a weave on it and stuff like that. So his entire central nervous system was completely shot. But one of the things here is what killed him was he was not able to sleep. Why? Because he had no melanin. He had no function of the melanin. You see what I'm saying? For the simple fact here is it wasn't just like a bunch of people bleaching their skin. You know, they got, you know, they'll have hair weaves on billboards here or whatever kind of black product. But in Africa, all you see all over Africa is the bleaching cream being advertised in Africa. Mm-hmm. And that's real big. But the point about it is you got to keep bleaching yourself, or you get darker than what you would have been before you even started bleaching. So as a result, what they had to do with this chemical peel was they had to actually tamper with the inner aspect of the melanin in the central nervous system, or the pineal gland, and all this type of stuff. As a result, it damaged his sleep. It damaged his whole central nervous system. And as a result, he had to resort to the whole thing with the propofol way and all of this, where they got to administer sleep that they do when people are getting operations in hospitals. So he had to, so in so many words, it had to go to a certain dangerous level. But one of the keys is this. One of the keys is this. When Michael Jackson decided to do this with this chemical peel, it probably had scientists, secret society people, and all types of people, you see what I'm saying, in the medical community that went in on this thing, on this grand experiment. And as a result, they were the ones who initially killed him. So the simple fact here was he could not sleep because they tampered with his melanin. And so recently they got all this stuff going on with the trial, but recently he came through and said, now you need to tell the real deal on what really went down, on why I couldn't sleep. You see what I'm saying? Why I couldn't sleep and stuff like that. Now, you know, so it's just very interesting on that particular part, but I thought it was fitting that we would that we should do this because of him making this grand song Thriller. And anytime you want to invoke the spirits, you pray Thriller. You see? And so, and by this being Halloween, and tomorrow is the day when we come closest to the ancestral realm. Yeah. And you see, so he came through, and I took it upon myself to give this thing about this melanin experiments, but it also teaches us a lesson in melanin. You see what I'm saying? Teaches us a lesson in melanin. Now, this is the interesting thing, because I think I talked about this the last year, that my Queen Linda back, I don't know when it was either in the 90s, I think it was in the 90s, she went to a party, and the party was packed full of people. And her and her friend went outside for a minute and was talking outside. When they came back in, there wasn't no more than 2 or 3 people in the whole party. And they were outside. There was no back door. They didn't see people leave. So what was this about? They didn't see people leave. So what it was, they were actually partying, because it was a Halloween party. They were actually partying with the ancestors. Now, this might be a reason why they tell you a lot of people go to parties on Halloween dressed up in costumes. Right. Is because one of the major mysteries is maybe that they don't want you to know that those ancestors come back. And a lot of times you see people in those costumes, they actually be spirits. Yeah. You see? But remember now, science doesn't want you to believe that there's a spiritual world. You see, there's a spiritual world. They'll even deal with